What is wrong with U.S. policy towards Cuba?
Well, it bears no relation to reality. We've done this for 49 years. We've hoped that we could bring the Cuban regime down economically. And if we couldn't do it after the Soviets pulled out, then we're certainly not going to do it today. So the Cuban economy isn't that great, but it's certainly better than it was for them, in the mid-90s. I think the default should be freedom, and just allow Americans to travel there, allow Americans to trade, allow goods and commerce to go there. It's not a guarantee that it would work, but it's certainly, when you're going to have a default, it should be freedom.
Why hasn't it changed?
Well, a number of reasons. One, you have members of Congress and administrations that just don't want to admit that they've been wrong. And they think just a little more time and it will work. Members of Congress have had this pattern of voting year after year after year to uphold the embargo or to tighten it. And it's tough to say I'm wrong, let's do a different policy. But then two, we have a whole cottage industry in Miami in particular built up around this policy. We spend probably between $50 and $60 million a year, mostly in South Florida. Radio and TV marquee, grants to universities to study the topic, to nonprofit organizations to smuggle food and whatnot down there. And it's an industry that just fosters itself. And so there's a lot vested in this current policy. Unfortunately, I've said that we'll never have rational farm policy as long as campaigns begin in Iowa. And as long as they seemingly end in Florida, it's tough to have rational Cuba policy. But I think we're close, frankly. There are a lot of people on Capitol Hill that are looking for an excuse to have a more rational policy. And having Fidel out of the picture may give them that excuse, even if it's his brother in charge, and even if things haven't changed that much in Cuba. I think there's a realization that we have to do something different.
Why are you interested in Cuba?
It just always bothered me that we have, as Republicans, we have an inconsistent foreign policy. We preach engagement and commerce and contact in China or Vietnam or North Korea, but then we say Cuba, no, it's a different story there, you can't do it. And it's bothered me, and that my constituents are told you can't travel there. It's simply wrong. Every American should go to Cuba, not just because it would be good for Cubans, it would be good for Americans. To see what happens when government controls the means of production and controls the economy and controls healthcare. You'd see it a little different than Michael Moore saw it down there. And so every American should have that experience as well. I think it'd be a greater appreciation for capitalism after you come back.